See you.
Good. Okay.
Once again, thank you everybody, for coming.
Okay.
As I was saying, I had a big technical thing 2 weeks ago, which I got a blue screen. So my laptop has been in and out of the shop. So I finally got it out of the shop Tuesday, got connected back to a Spectrum network on Wednesday, and yesterday, I thought I had my new passwords for my email addresses. All of a sudden, just this evening, they reverted, the system reverted to the old stuff. I'm not going to go bother you with that, but I will carry on for another few minutes until I formally turn the program over to Paul.
Thank you.
On transit news, there was a problem with the new R11s. It seemed when I went to take my express train over to St. George on Wednesday last, one of the doors wouldn't open. So we all had to crowd into the first 2 cars.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's going to call his
So I had to stand between Bay Terrace and St. George. So finally today, I'm not going to get into the wherewithal why that office wasn't open. I finally got a hold of Councilman Morano's office and gave her the problem. So the staffer is going to contact the SIR shop in Clifton and or the SIR management to see what the heck is going down.
Right.
I could see if this was in the old R44. Those guys are on their last legs. But to have one of the new cars not open, something's wrong. So that's being taken care of. Of course, with this heat, of course, it's led to issues such as Amtrak now running out of not having air conditioned and people stifling on that. So, yeah, that's right. I don't think I wasn't on the Long Island Wednesday because of the heat. I didn't have to. I wasn't able to observe. So, that's it for train equipment issues and the temperature. So right now, I'd like to turn the floor over to our member of our program committee and point man, Mr. Paul Kalka. So take it away, Paulie.
Thank you, General Foz. I want to welcome everyone to, believe it or not, our last Zoom membership meeting program of the year, of our membership meeting year, which runs from September through June. I want to thank all of you for having faithfully, for the most part, signed in month after month. As you know, month after month, year after year, the RE presents the very best in rail fan entertainment to you for your viewing pleasure. And tonight will be certainly no exception in the guise of Mr. Mitch Dakelman. Mitch returns tonight after a hiatus of some years. I know he was a mainstay for many years. He came up with his trusty projector when we were at the Masonic Building many years ago on West 23rd Street, and even in more recent years up to the Williamson Library and Grand Central Station, before restricted access, and I think even post-restricted access, which took us right up to the shutdown, the pandemic shutdown in the early spring, late winter of 2020. And of course, those of you who remember the very early days when we established the Zoom programs, I'll give some credit to our friends over at ERA. They assisted us the first month or two. And we've made our way, and I think we've been doing this now, believe it or not, for 5.5 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
thank you all. So tonight, obviously, is a very special occasion because not only do we have Mitch back, but this program, as you'll see, is no hyperbole necessary. This will be the work of the late, great Allan Roberts, as digitized very painstakingly and lovingly by Mr. Mitch Dakelman. And it features, for the most part, the Pennsylvania Railroad, but there'll be some extra added attractions for you and a couple of surprises. I won't give anything away. So this is something we will all look forward to. So therefore, without any further ado, let me yield the floor to our man of the hour, Mr. Mitch Dakelman. Mitch.
Yay!
Yay.
You can see me?
Yeah.
Can you see
Yes.
me? All right, now, how do I get the program?
Thank you.
Go to share?
Yes,
Steve will
you
walk
can,
you through
well,
that.
is your PowerPoint file or whatever it is just open and minimized before you even try screen sharing? Open it up and then you can just minimize it.
How do I? All right,
Screen.
here we go. This is my, all right, let me try this. Can you
I know
see it?
Mitch, the pain.
First you don't, no, first open up the file and then minimize it. Don't screen share. Screen sharing is step 2. That's okay. Is your file opened up?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. And
Good.
it's okay. Now
Good.
press. See that there is a green share button down below. It's an icon. It has an upwards arrow, and it's a green square. And beneath it, it says share. Try clicking on it.
That's what I get.
Now, okay. Now, when you clicked on it,
Oh,
you should see,
here, this.
you should see some windows. Now you have to.
Gosh.
Okay, yeah, I see. It's started
Got
screen
it?
share.
Hey,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, before you did now, with what you're showing, are there any videos you're showing, or is it all still photos?
What's that again, Stephen?
Are these all still photos? Are there any
Yes.
videos in your
They're all
presentation?
still photos.
Okay, then you don't need to turn on the sound with screen sharing. This is fine.
Can
All
you
right,
hear me
you
though?
ready? Yeah, I'm
Yes,
able
I
to
hear
see
you
it.
loud and clear.
Is everyone able to see it?
Okay,
I see and I hear.
so you see the first frame?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Can I
see it.
start the show?
Railroading the Northeast with Al
Yes.
Roberts and our
Okay,
events.
all right, great.
Which
So
is-
anyway, my HP laptop that we did the test broke down
Oh,
and it's
no.
being repaired. So I'm using my Dell computer. And
Ah,
if you remember in the test you couldn't see me, well, this laptop you can see me. And since I showed the test show, I've added some more pictures. In
beautiful.
fact, I could add a lot more pictures, but it's very, very time consuming. So let's start the show. It'll take us about an hour to get through the
That's good.
photos. If you have any
Not a problem.
comments,
Not a
please
problem.
don't hesitate
Finally got
to
it.
ask. Okay, anyway,
Thank you.
a number of years ago, after Al's passing, his photographic collection were sold to Morning Sun Books,
Yes.
but not all of them went to Morning Sun Books. I pursued the movie films, and when I picked up the movie films, there were a number of slide boxes present. So slide boxes were included in the purchase, and Bob wasn't that happy about it, but I allowed him to use them for his projects. And he used Lehigh Valley. He used the New Haven and Penn Central stuff, but the last 2 books never got published because he retired from the business. So anyway, this program consists of slides that I've acquired through his collection, and also Bob Yancey has been selling them on eBay. So it's a combination. So anyway, we're going to start off with the Penzi. This is Al,
Jesus.
1951,
Wow.
Epavonia. Now, in addition to the slides, was a loose binder of photos. So I began scanning those photos. You'll see some of those in the show. I wish I could have done more, but time ran out. So here's a young Al Roberts at Pavonia Yard. And then later, 1969 at Cedar Hill Yard. Now, Al was born October 23rd, 1934, and he passed away April 26, 2018. He lived in Queens and then moved to um, Staten Island, but he was a well-known, prolific photographer. So here we are, our first pictures of the program, taken of the famous Hellgate Bridge with the westbound New Haven train heading to Penn Station. It's May 28, 1968, train 173, and the train is being hauled by a EP5 electric. Okay? And now we're down at Sunnyside Yard at the Loop. And it was a road that you could just walk down. There was no extra security. And at this location was the washer where they washed the train and the locomotives. The only problem was with the GG1s, they could only wash the sides. They had a special washer for the Gs built many, many years prior, but for some reason that washer was discontinued. So you have this washer here, okay, it's right behind the locomotive. It only washed the sides of the engine, and of course, it washed the cars. And a close-up view of the washer with the 4903 passing through on March 31st, 1968. Really, really a great picture. And now on the Loop, in the Penn Central era, we had the 4869 on January 24th, 1970. And you can see in the background the Empire State Building.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Here we have a really lengthy train on May 19th of 68 with a G with the red P, white C. Now, you can see the effects of that washer, that the front of the engine and the crevice where the air ventilator is does not get washed. The washer that had been designed for the Gs was on the other side of the yard, and generally it was pushed through by a mechanized pig. And it's documented in a movie called Wheels of Steel. We talked about the baggage car behind the engine, that it appears to be, I can't read the writing on the baggage car. It may be a REA express car of some sort or a mail car. Here we have the engine facility, and we have here GG1 4883, and then we have behind the GG1 the B1 switchers, which were used to shunt the passenger cars around the yard. They had some for Long Island Railroad that ran off third rail and were generally operated in pairs of two. But in later years, under Penzi, they could be operated singularly. And by this time in 1970, they only had a handful of the B1s still operating. The rest of the fleet of engines that would be used were SW1s, which they had at Harrisburg and Philadelphia and Baltimore. There is the 4755 and appears to be a Alco switcher. And on the right-hand side, another B1 switcher. You already have the engines painted or numbered in the Penn Central era. We're now in Penn Central era. This is an L6. It's a 282 design. These were designed initially to haul electric freight. They were built in the early 1930s by Lima, and the engine, the motors were either Westinghouse or GE, but only 3 got completed. The other car bodies were never finished because the GG1s were being built, and they displaced the P5s into freight service. So they only had 3 of these built, and they generally worked in the Sunnyside area and were retired not too long after this picture was taken in 1967.
Wow.
And here we have the venerable MP-54. This is a trailer car, and behind is the power car. And I remember these growing up in the 60s. These were around forever. They lasted through SEPTA into the mid-70s, although I didn't see them down there. I lived up in New Jersey, but I do remember riding these. Now, this car appears to be one air-conditioned because these are sealed windows. But I remember they had open windows. Of course, you can't do that on the Northeast Corridor now. And here's another view of the B1 switcher, the Alco, and the GG1. And the cut of cars you see in the background are for the LIRR car float, which you will see later. How are we doing, boys and girls? Okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Okay, good. All right.
Thank you.
Al, when he did his presentations, he was excellent. And at Jersey Central chapter, I had him every year speaking. He was a member of Jersey Central, and he came regularly. And I recorded his programs on videotape.
Yeah.
But he could give a program. He was excellent. He really was.
Wow.
Here is the sole remaining DD1, built in 1910 for service between Penn Station and where they change engines at Harrison, Manhattan Transfer. And eventually some of these were sold to LIRR, and they were used by LIRR until 1950, and a handful were used for wire train service. So this engine is used for wire train service. It is now preserved at the PRR Museum in Strasbourg. And another view of the DD1 set with straplers in the background. With straplers, like something line straplers.
Yeah.
All right. Here we are at the engine house, and now we have here a New York Central T1 motor that either replaced or supplemented the DD1, because these could be operated off third rail too. They were not overhead wire engines; they were strictly third rail. But on the New York Central, they were under rail pickup. On the Pennsylvania LIR side, they were over rail running. I could never understand that when I was a little boy. My aunt and uncle lived in the Bronx. I remember driving along the Major Deegan, and you can see the railroad. And how does the train pick up the power? I don't see the gap for the top of the third rail. And I realized years later that it picked up from the underneath of the rail, not on the top of the rail. And an overview of the engine facility here. We have GG1 4919, 4925. You have the Hostler, and he is sanding the locomotive, the motor. There's that pipe that is injected in the sand input. And in the movie Wheels of Steel, that was made in the early 50s, they demonstrate how all this was done. And the 4922 on the ready track, May 25th, 1968, are now in Penn Central era. And 4918 with a number of engines. I don't know how he got in the yard. I guess he just maybe knew people, or there was no problem back then. I don't know. I remember I infiltrated the Sunnyside Yard, but I came through a fence by that building in the background you see. And we have here the Queen Mary, a private car, a business car. And now we have a train ready to leave the yard. And for some reason, there's a coach in between the um, mail cars. So it's possibly this could be a mail train of some sort, or they're switching engines, switching cars. I really don't know, but all I know is that it's unusual to have a coach between the engine and the mail cars. Maybe that's for the crew of the post office. This is a photo that amazed some people at a program I did a few weeks ago for the New Jersey Electrics Association. They really marveled at this picture taken from the car float at Long Island City. You have here a Pennsylvania railroad tug. So this car float has come up from Jersey City. And you see in the background the Empire State Building, a power plant, and to the right, the um, the Chrysler Building and the I can't not World Trade Center, the General Assembly Building. What do they call that? World Building. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm getting bad with my memory. All right. So there's a car float there. And here we are in 1966, the Penn Station demolition. Now, one of my first train rides to Long Island happened in 1964. My cousin Tom had been born, and my aunt and uncle had moved to Long Island, to Freeport, and my grandparents were going to see my cousin Tom, who was all but 3 days old. So, on a very cold Sunday, we took the train to Long Island. And I remember going through Penn Station with all these like corridors passing through, like you were going through a mice trap of some sort. But I didn't understand what was happening. What they were doing, they were tearing down Penn Station. Now we are on the New Jersey side, and another place you really can't get to nowadays. It's the exit of the Bergen Tunnel at North Bergen. Route 1 is right above the photographer. And there's a third rail there for the wire train service. There had been third rail in the early part of the 20th century for trains as far as Manhattan Transfer because they could not run steam through the tunnel. And here we have another view of the tunnel with the Route 1 bridge. Now, as we speak, to the right of the picture, a new bridge is being built to carry Tunnelly Avenue over the two new tracks, which are being added now, and the new tunnel, which is under construction. So that project is well underway. And a view of MP 54 leaving the tunnel on July 7th of 68. I went down here one day to take movies, and I wasn't bothered, but on ultimate trips, we were bothered by the Amtrak police. So we never went back. This is a striking view as the train leaves the tunnel and it takes a sweeping curve um, to go parallel to the turnpike. This is the remnants of Penn Station. So they took pieces of Penn Station and took it out to the swamps, and there they were. They could still be there underground for all we know. Here we are at the Kearney Meadows yard, where the engines were serviced for freight. And also they had a servicing area for steam engines when steam power was being operated out of Jersey City. Remember, there was some trains that left Jersey City, exchanged Place Station, and went directly to Bayhead under steam. So those engines were serviced at the Meadows Engine House here. Here we are at Harrison. And there was discussion when we did that program with the North Jersey Electric Group, where this train is going. This is 1961, and the train is not going to New York City. It's going to Jersey City. It's going to switch on to the H&M track in the foreground. So this train is going to Exchange Place. That's what Rich Taylor said. Rich Taylor is an expert in his railroad history. Here we are in South Amboy in 1964. It was a facility at one time for steam locomotives in the 50s, and it's well documented with movies and slides. I do have movies in 16 millimeter of that operation. In fact, if Michael wants a copy, I have several copies of that film that were made up several years ago. Okay, let's continue. We have E7s here and switchers. Now, to the right of the picture is the area where the coal trains came in. They went through the thaw house and then went to the dumper, which is out on the on a peninsula. This is all being gentrified now with apartment houses in the park and a new ferry service, a passenger ferry service from South Amboy to New York City. Are you with me, boys and girls? Can you hear me? Good. Okay. All right. Now, here we are looking towards the main line of the New York Long Branch. The Raritan Bay is behind the photographer. We have a hopper there, and the coaling tower is not being used anymore, being back in August of 64. But we still have the water tower. The water plugs are still there. To the right, you can see an E7 diesel, which replaced the K4 steam engines. That, the Baldwin Sharks, the PAs, the engine GP9s, they had all kinds of variety of power pulling the passenger trains. Here we are in downtown South Amboy with a New York bound train coming in with passengers at the station. And here is where the E7 will be cut off and the GG1 will be placed on. Now, I really should go back to South Amboy because this has all been reconfigured. There's only 2 tracks now. There's a brand new station there. It's a high-level Center Island station, ADA compatible, high-level platform with elevators. But we've lost the character of South Amboy. Even his footbridge is gone. Here we are down in Asbury Park in 1973 in the Penn Central era, and they were still using E7s, believe it or not. The E7s date back to the 1940s. And Princeton proper. And those are the cars for the Dinky, connecting Princeton and Princeton Junction proper, a whopping ride of 2.8 miles. What is really neat about this picture is the mailbox. Now, when we're showing slides with people in the room, there's discussion, but unfortunately, it's like me being in a movie theater running a film, and you can't really have the discussion. Well, we had discussion when we showed these slides to the North Jersey group. Here we are in Trenton at the barracks yard, and we have some coal trains here. We have a freight passing through, and most likely the 4887 is pulling a passenger train, either a clocker to Philadelphia or a train to Washington, D.C. It could be going to Harrisburg and beyond, or to South. I don't know, because all I see is the motor on the front. The passenger engines got washed. the freight motors did not get washed. That's why they look so disgustingly filthy. They really washed them, unfortunately. And the brand new Metroliners. They came on board, I think, in 1969. They were delivered with the Pennsylvania Railroad emblem, and now you can see the 810 has the PC emblem. And I remember riding these when I was in college in the early 70s. You had to call, there was no internet back then, you had to call for reservation. And the extra fare was $2. Here we are on the Ought track, a parked train with the 4081 hauling a set of decommissioned MU cars. And you can see here how the washer only does the sides of the engine. And this is an Army-Navy game special at the track connecting the stadium to the main line. I think they call it the Arsenal connection, some sort. But you have the two tracks in the foreground are B&O, and the two tracks in the back are the Pennsy. So you have the B&O and Pennsy paralleling each other. So when they ran Army-Navy game trains, the B&O ran some trains, as did the PRR. And the PRR always they use mostly electrics. They could run diesel, depending on where the train had originated from. Here we are in the Wilmington shops, 1970. And by the 1966 was the first year where the GG1s began to get retired. They were getting problems with the frames cracking, metal fatigue, parts failing, and they only had a lifespan of 20 years, believe it or not, but they lasted almost 50. And in 1977, GG14935 was cosmetically restored by a friends group who raised money to have the engine painted. And here we are, the 100th anniversary, 50th anniversary of the Broadway Limited. So to our left, we have all sorts of people on the ground taking pictures of the Strasburg PRR 1223 and GG14935 is the Amtrak version of the Broadway. Here we are in Lancaster of a local passing through. And you can see the Lancaster sign with the keystone, the high-level platform, the canopy, and the stairway that takes you over the tracks. The inside tracks are for express trains. Here's a night view of Harrisburg. Probably a time exposure. Summer of 68. Now out on the Middle Division, we have Mifflin Signal Tower, which is featured in a movie called Clear Track Ahead. And a good friend of mine, Neil A. Shore from Wexford, PA, has built an exquisite model of the Middle Division, and he has a model of the Mifflin Signal Tower. And again, notice the Keystone Mifflin sign. And the tower painted a chocolate brown and a cream color, or beige color. And now we're in Lewistown with an Alco C630 in the point, and we're down to 3 tracks. Again, another sign of the past, the telephone phone booth. And if you go there today, they have a PRR Lewistown sign there. I believe the PR Technical Society keeps their archives at the station. Also at the time, there was an underground subway to take you from the westbound platform to the eastbound platform. And that's all been closed off. They have one train each direction now, and they all load from the same platform at the station as you see in front of you. Here we are west of Lewistown. This is Lewis Tower. This is a brick structure as opposed to wood frame structure. And this tower is now gone. Again, a local freight with a NW2 and a GP9. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 cars. Altoona, May 28, 1966. We're still in the Pennsy era. And here we are at the Horseshoe Curve with a U-25B in the point on the inside westbound track. And a winter scene in the February 73. And to the extreme right is the K4 on display and a piggyback train going up the mountain. I haven't been to Horseshoe Curve in several years. I used to go, but it's all treated now. It's very hard, and they charge you now to go up to the top. Here is a night view of the K4, which supposedly is undergoing a restoration. And now we are at Benny. Benny's between the Horseshoe Curve and Glitzen Tunnel. It's kind of hard to get in. You have to drive in the back and walk in. And you see the single tower in the background there. A C630 and a York Central GP40. So we're now in the Penn Central era, obviously. This is the original Portage Tunnel, which was built after the Allegheny Portage Railroad was abandoned. It was rebuilt without any inclined planes. This tunnel was built in the 1850s, I believe. It is a lower elevation. It's a higher elevation than the Glitzen Allegheny Tunnel, which is to the right of the photographer. My eyes are itching, guys. Another view. This is a GP35. It's a short tunnel. You can see the end of the tunnel in this picture. The Allegheny Tunnel, the Glitzen Tunnel, is a longer tunnel. There's your Allegheny and Glitzen Tunnel here. And this train is going westbound with a U-25C, not a B. I made a mistake in the caption, in July of 68. So we're now in early Penn Central. It was really neat to see trains go through here. Here we are at Pitcairn. Pitcairn is just east of Pittsburgh. And it was a yard for the Pennsy. It now serves as a trailer facility for Norfolk Southern. But here's an FA and a GP9. This is back in 1961. I believe this is not an Al Roberts photo. It was a photo in his collection. And another photo from his collection, another interesting picture, is a westbound train on the Panhandle. That's the Point Bridge, the background. And at the time, the new Fort Pitt Bridge was under construction. So after the Fort Pitt Bridge was completed, they closed the Point Bridge. And it sat there for about 10 years before it was dismantled finally. Now we're going to go up to New York State. We are at Maybrook. New Haven had a facility in Maybrook. They, when they dieselized, they started with FAs. They bought 15 ABA FA sets to run the trains between Maybrook and Devon, Connecticut. And the Maybrook line was the Hilldale line, and it included the Poughkeepsie Bridge, which you'll see later in the program. The Pennsy ran a train up there This train is going down to actually West Trenton, Trenton. So he'll go all the way down the Maybrook line down to the Beldell. So he's on Lehigh and Hudson River Railroad right now. And at Belvedere, he'll switch on to Beldell and go all the way down to Trenton and hook on the main line in Trenton. So it's a lash up of two GP9s and RSD12s. Here's that lash up of power there. The RSD12s, which are Alcos, and the GP9s. These are products of the 1950s, both of these different sets of engines. The GP9s are EMD, the RST12s are Alco products. Another view of the Alcos, six-wheel truck Alcos, with the notched ends, very distinctive of Alcos locomotives. And a view of the train with the Alcos in front. Most likely he got the inbound train and the outbound train coming into Maybrook. Okay. Another striking view of the show is the Poughkeepsie Bridge. There were two logo boxes in New Haven /PC slides. In other words, they were taken in the early PC era of Penn Central takeover of New Haven, and Bob Yancey borrowed those to do some books, but sadly they were never published. They came back to me in the binders, so maybe someday we can get them published. Of the icy Hudson River in 1968. Here we are in Boston. After the Penn Central merger with New Haven, we now begin seeing Pennsy E8s infiltrate the railroad to haul trains between New Haven and Boston. And you can see in the back one engine painted PC. And they're really kind of run down engines, kind of sad of what was happening to the rail industry of the late 60s. This is before Amtrak. Here we are, the Merchants Limited at Hyde Park outside of Boston. Of course, now it's all electric here and built up and rebuilt, and you can just see the decay of the industrial area of Massachusetts. Looks like that station is derelict. You have a factory there, which is derelict, garbage all over the place. Just not a good time at this time. And here's a picture that came of discussion at Reedville. Take a look where the photo is taken from. You can see to the left of the photographer is an abutment of a bridge. And diagonally looks like a station canopy for a track. It's fenced off. So we believe there was a railroad that crossed over here. We don't know what railroad it was. I'm sure someone in the New Haven Historical Society would know. And looks like there was a station platform for passenger service of some sort, a branch line. And here we are, the Colonial passing through. And here's one of those funny looking baggage cars that we talked about earlier in the show. April 11th, 69. You still have some EP5s in service, or they can be sidelined at this point. The train has come down from Boston, and now the G is hooked on. And the G started going up there when the Penn Central took over the New Haven. The American Railroad's engine was painted briefly in 1969. This is down by Derby, Connecticut. This picture you'll see one more time in the show after the merger. At 4877, is preserved. It is displayed at the Railway Historical Society worksite in Boonton. And the famous early New Haven catenary structures at Glenbrook. Really photogenic. Uh-oh, my battery. I never plugged my battery in. Wait a second, guys. Ah. Oh, gee. Oh, there we go. Battery. Okay. All right. So here we have, looks like this is an westbound train coming through Glenbrook. And here's a eastbound train coming through Glenbrook. I actually went there myself to photograph these catenary structures, which are been long gone now. They've been replaced. There are like eight, I think there were eight of them, eight of these towers. Here we are on the Hellgate Bridge in 1969. I guess Al was daring to walked up there. I guess no one bothered you. There's a theory that the outside arches were built for a light rail of some sort or a trolley line that was never built, but it was never a structure for the track to go over the Hellgate itself. You only have the structure inside for the 4 tracks that carried the trains over the Hellgate. And a fan trip here stopped with the MP54s. And it appears that the outside track is out of service. They are going to put commuter service on this line. Here we are, June 8th, 1968 at Harrison, New Jersey, with the Robert F. Kennedy funeral train that passed through. I was in Highland Park that day. I photographed it on 8mm black and white film. And the going away shot at Harrison. Look at the crowd. There was crowds the entire length of the railroad. And a bystander got killed at Elizabeth, believe it or not. Now we switch on to the New York Central. Famous P2B motors. They were former Cleveland Union Terminal motors. And when the Cleveland Union Terminal dieselized, these got transferred over to the electrified division, the Harlem line and the Hudson line of the Central, and were used for commuter trains and for the longer trains like the 20th Century Limited. And you can see the under-running third rail here. A winter shot coming to the cut with a brand new apartment building going in. Those people probably get a very nice view of trains passing through under the Metro North regime. And a freight coming through Spite and Dival, taken from the rocks. I went up here once. Here we are in Albany, and there's discussion about this train, where it was coming from. The slide is listed Montrealer, but it's possible it could be a different train coming down from Canada under D&H and then being turned into a New York Central train at Albany. But you can see here a whole bunch of people getting on or getting off at Croton Harmon. Now we are going to look at some other railroads. Before I did the show, this was the last slide I added a little while ago. So Al did look at different railroads. This is C&J at Allentown, Pennsylvania. And we have train AC3 diverting onto the C&J, heading north towards Wilkes-Barre. And it's now part of the Lehigh line of Norfolk Southern and R&N, with ST-35s passing by. Here we are in downtown Jim Thorpe, formerly Mauchunk, and with an RSD-4 and a cabin car. And Andy Muller of R&N has instituted a very, very well-patronized passenger service to serve Jim Thorpe. He has a train coming in from Reading. He has a train coming in from Pottsville, and a train coming in from Pittston. 3 trains, each coming in from different cities, plus these steam specials. There was one last Saturday, which was absolutely spectacular, that I rode on. Here we are in Bethlehem, Lehigh Valley. There are a lot of Lehigh Valley slides. In fact, Bob Yanis did do a book using Al's slides of Lehigh Valley, but I only had time to show you a few of them. This is the engine facility at Packerton in 1964. After the Lehigh Valley took over the C&J. What's that? What's that? I can't hear you saying. We have an FA to our left.
Why don't you mute Steve? Mute everybody. Why don't you mute Steve? Mute everybody. She's getting feedback.
Here we are at Laurel Run. To my left is the C&J. To my right is the Lehigh Valley. And we have some sort of a steam special coming through. It appears to be Reading cars. So this could be a train operated by Hart. What was his name? John Hart. Not Bob Hart. His name is Hart. I can't remember his first name. But at Laurel Run, they use helpers. And even last week, when the Reading engine went through here, I was on the train, they used helpers up here. Of course, the R&N uses the track to your left, which is the former C&J. And Delaware and Hudson, U-33C, and Bethlehem. This is one that had been used by the Erie Lackawanna. They had exchanged, I think D&H was using ST-45s and the Erie Lac was using U-33s. Here we are celebrating the bicentennial, and what they did with the 4800, the first GG1s, they painted this short-lived bicentennial scheme on a fan trip. Long Island Railroad, Long Island City, they used a lot of Alcos for their switching. This is LI Long Island City. And this is I showed this slide before at Derby. And here we are back at Spuyten Duyvil with a T1 engine, Grand Central Station bound in the wintertime. And I remember the snowstorm in 1969. We got 2 feet of snow in Highland Park. And I remember digging out for the storm. I took movies, the Super 8, of my father digging in the snow and our little puppy dog romping in the snow. But here, the trains are rolling through at Spuyten Duyvil. This is up at Greenwich, Connecticut, on the New Haven. And you have a really good view here of the triangular catenary that the New Haven was known for, taken January 1st, 1970. What to do the first day of the year, take pictures of trains with the washboard type MU trains, paint lettered Penn Central. Now, here we are at the LIRR car float, the 1968. And Gene Calora tells me the story how they had to load and unload the car floats. They had to be done in a certain way so the cars were weighted properly. And we see here on our left a refrigerator car and a transfer car that was used to push the cars and take the cars off the float. You could not run an engine on the car float because of the weight. So they used these like idler cars. And here we have that another shot here of a reefer coming off the car float. Now a park here. It's now a park. The car float stands are still there, lettered Long Island. And another interesting photo that the LIRR leased from Bangor and Woodstock, these GP9s. So they can be seen on freight or passenger trains. Taken in 1970, the Montauk Branch flyover. I don't understand this area here, guys. I'm not from here. So I don't know what this is used for. Obviously, it's a freight line here. This I added today to the show.
Nice shot.
Oyster Bay Yard. I don't know if it's a club car there. Yeah, it is a club car. Locust Valley. And North White Plains in Penn Central era of the P Motors. I misspelled terminal, guys. Sorry. And in 1969, the Flying Scotsman made it a cross-country journey. It went through New York City, hauled to the tunnel by GG1. Now it's on its own at Harrison. Al photographed a lot of Erie, Lackawanna. Here we have an E8 at Hoboken. And in Cleveland, Lake City's Train 5. Train to stop for servicing. Great place to watch trains with all these tracks crossing each other. I've never been to Marion. One of these days I'll get out there. Here we have a train passing through the Bergen Tunnel. He's going to Hoboken Station with RS3 and Stillwell coaches before the era of the new push-pull equipment they were getting. Now we're going to do some, Al had a binder, and I digitized some of these photos. These pictures may be very well in the Williamson Library, but the New York Rail Enthusiasts did sponsor a number of trips going back to the 30s. And this appears to be a C&J car. I don't know the exact date of this photograph. They did run a train up to Mount Hope in 1951. We know that. But to your left is George Meyer, and to your right is Ed May. I knew George fairly well. Ed May, I don't know if I knew him. George's movies are now part of the NRHS and Williamson Library, as Michael can tell you. Here we have George posing for the camera on a Fonda, Johnson, and Gloversville wooden boxcar of some sort. I think it's around 1940. But everyone dressed up back then with jackets and ties and fedora hats. And a view here on the Lehigh in New England at Penargo, Pennsylvania. Uh, very nicely, Al has labeled the photo. William S. Weber, Edward A. Hansen, John Schmidt from Lehigh Valley, and Howard N. Guthrie. And they're on a camelback locomotive. This is Vice President Chairman Lionel Rogers. He was from Philadelphia. And Trip Chairman Ed Hauser. In 1939, this is taken down in Washington, D.C. This is Lionel Rogers and Bob Butterfield at Fabians, New Hampshire on a trip called Around the Mountain Trip in 1941. Mr. Butterfield was a well-known engineer for the 20th Century Limited. And here's Lionel Rogers with Margaret Hyde on the last CRNJ Blue Comet run in 1941. And eventually Lionel did marry Margaret because we had some letters that she wrote to Al Roberts with the Margaret Rogers name. Here's a letter from Margaret about the picture I showed you of the engineer and Roger, dated February 19, 2002, about the photo with Lionel and the engineer, Bob Butterfield. Perhaps someone in your organization would like to have this picture. And finally, we had the holiday parties at the Masonic Temple. There's Stephen, or is there Paul? Paul there. And Mrs. Roberts. Al, Lori, and Gwen at the holiday party at the Masonic Lodge. And Neil showing his movies. All his movies are preserved in the NRHS library, which I have yet to touch one reel. And every so often, Al and his friends would host a gathering of rail fans. This was taking the Whitings at John Briggs' home. And there I am in the middle. Al is in the blue shirt. Neil Moran is to the left. You have me in the middle. Mike Eagleson, John's brother to the right. John is to the back right. Al Papp. So we had a great time. We would go down there and watch movies and slides all day long. After John's passing, Al would host them at his bijou at his house down the shore. And that's it. More to come.
Great program, Mitch.
I could have done more, but
Oh, yeah.
111 slides. I mean,
It was
Excellent.
Yes.
one
Free to
world-class presentation after another.
I learned more about Al Roberts. I learned a little bit more.
Yeah.
yes, I did.
well, Al wrote several books for Morning Sun. He wrote, I
Thank you,
think,
Mitch.
he wrote 2 books of Morning Sun, and then, as I said, Bob Yanis, he did one about after Al's passing. He did one about the Erie Lackawanna with Al Roberts, Lehigh Valley with Al Roberts. There were 2 more planned. They were written, put together, but never published.
Oh,
Yeah. So Bob really liked Al's work.
yeah.
And, Al wrote The Big Apple. I think he wrote 2
Yes.
books.
I know we have them in the library.
Yeah,
Eric.
yeah. And I have his movies. So the only thing I kicked myself when I went up there, I should have taken the black and white negatives. I just left them
Oh,
behind.
yeah.
I don't know what happened to them. His nephew was getting rid of everything, and they were being donated
Wow.
to different historical studies in Staten Island. So
Oh,
I don't know what happened to that stuff.
well, I'm glad they preserved the lion's share of it.
Yeah, the slides are, yeah.
We
I
don't
know
have much,
Sheldon has
about,
some of the slides.
Yes,
but,
I got the Long Island and the Lehigh Valley.
We're gonna have to digitize them.
Yeah, that's the next project.
Yeah, we
It's a
could
big
use Neptune
project.
in Garden City. Just pass them on to Steve Calker. He'll bring them into Neptune and Garden City, and the club will pay for it.
We'll have to find them in the library and then pass them over to Steve for that project.
Yeah, because if you don't digitize, you know what happens to those slides eventually.
Well, I must tell you, I'm digitizing slides for the NRHS, and for myself, we had a lot of family photos of my family going back to late 19th century. My mother's
Oh,
relatives were from Europe, as were my father's relatives from Russia, and plus my dad took a lot of pictures throughout his lifetime, and my mother took pictures of her family. So our family is very, very well documented. Plus,
excellent.
I began taking train pictures, and I like
I don't
highways too.
believe this.
So one of the things I do for the NRHS, I digitize their photos. I could be doing this
Oh,
forever. I could be doing this. I
right.
have
It is.
thousands of
Oh,
slides, negatives. It just goes on forever.
well,
Yep.
Mitch,
if you like, Steve, when we locate the Allen slides at the library, pass them along to Mitch for
Okay.
digitize.
I see that somebody is asking what kind of scanner you used. I'd like to know that too. What kind of
It's
scanner?
a V800. I can't think of the name of the manufacturer. It's a well-known V800. I can't think of the name of the manufacturer off the top of my head. It's not you.
Epson,
What's that?
Epson V800.
Epson, right? Epson V800, right? That
Thank you, Mike.
scanner will do, the template can do 12 slides at a time. It will do transparencies and negatives up to 8 by 10. It will do documents, prints, negatives. It's a very versatile machine. I am using it every day. Even today, for some of the pictures you saw in the show, I was digitizing right up to showtime.
Wow,
But
good
it
for
gets to
you.
you for a while. I mean,
So
but then
when,
on top of that, the slides have to be labeled. Once you
Oh,
digitize
yeah,
them, you have to label them on your
quite
computer.
a job.
It's a big job. So,
Yes.
for me, for each slide you see in the show, it will take me 10 minutes to post because I have to label them. They're going to be cleaned up. Some have to be cropped, you know what I mean? Depending on what I'm using, whether I'm using a black and white photo, a print. I mean, what's the good thing about PowerPoint? You can use a variety of media for your show. When you did a traditional slideshow, I remember years ago, uh, when I worked at Wagner College before the era of digitization, they were always bringing me art books to copy. And I had a copy stand, I had special lenses,
Oh,
and I would copy art
excellent.
slides, okay? And I would do that the same thing for my shows. The first show I did was a GG1 slideshow. And so
Wow.
I had to photograph certain things into slides. Now, you put them on your flatbed scanner and you crop out what you don't want, you crop what you want, and you scan the image.
Uh-huh.
You
so
know,
what did you say that was? A Epson
Epson
V800?
Epson
V800.
V as in Victory 800. They're about 500. They're
Yeah, I think the
$50.
one I have is a V500.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
yeah. There are some that will take lesser But the V800 will take the bigger transparencies, which I needed for the NRHS. I have 4x5
Right.
negatives. I have 8x10 negatives. I mean, I have glass negatives. I had all sorts of different size images I had to copy. So they bought me a scanner. They bought me a laptop.
Ah. Well, we could even pass on the Vince Perrin, Johnny Knopf slide collection to you for digitization.
For Allen's eight Super 8 films. We need that.
I have Allen
Oh,
Super 8. I have
yeah.
Allen Super 8 films.
We
Thank
have
you.
none of his films.
Wow.
I have them. He
I'm
wanted
glad
them to
you
go to the
have
Williamson
them.
Library. It didn't work out that way. Michael and I have talked about it. Since we're
Yes.
recording, we're not going to talk about it on the record.
Right.
We know about what happened. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely.
What's that?
We're not going to talk on the record for sure.
No, but it's a good thing.
But
I think
eventually, the
Yeah.
movies will probably make up the Williamson Library at some point in my life because
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch.
I'm in my 70s and I can't keep everything. So
Ah, excellent.
So
Well,
I missed
thank
the
you
first
once
half
again.
hour. About how long will it be until this recording is posted on the RRE website?
We'll pose that question to Steve Kalka.
What's
Not-
that?
Steve,
Wow.
Mike, Frank wants to know when you'll have the recording posted on the RE website. He missed the first half hour of the show.
Probably sometime this weekend.
Great.
good.
Thank you. And Sheldon then could watch the part he missed.
Yep.
Glad you eventually made your way in.
As I was about to say, I tried accessing again, and this time I was successful. So I missed very
Great.
little.
Oh, wonderful. Good. I didn't even know you were on the program.
Well, all you had to do was look above your brother, and there I am.
Yeah, I saw. Might as well stop recording. This is the